Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to make a video on Wrath Paladin. Believe it or not, I tried something different. I should say I'm doing something different this time, where in TBC I actually made video after video after video as I slowly figured out, what I was going to play for TBC and why. In Wrath of the Lich King, I decided that I would spend a considerable amount of time and get everything in final form before I made a video. So I've actually been looking into Paladin for Wrath on like Warmane and stuff, and on the PTR, and talking to people and testing things and yada yada yada. Doing everything I normally do for about a month now. So it's time for a video, basically. Full disclosure, I am sick. I've been sick for like the past, I don't know, like 3 or 4 days or some stupid thing like that. I've got like basically the bacteria in my stomach is, or my digestive tract in general is bad. So I am currently trying to fix that. It's not bad enough to make you have to go to the bathroom all the time, which in my opinion makes it worse. Because at least that way it'll be over quickly. But this one just lingers, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I keep trying different probiotics, but I've had trouble sleeping and stuff. Not good. So yeah, but I've been wanting to make this video for like 4 days now, but I've been sick and tired this entire time, and I finally just got sick of it, and I'm like, all right, let's just sit down and take this video nice and slow, even though this is probably going to be like a 2-hour video. All right, let's start with findings. I do got some things to pull up here in Paintu. So here we have me testing different builds and their combat capabilities, like how much DPS, where's the DPS coming from. This is all on Warmane, so it might actually change in actual World of Warcraft. This is also in Season 7 armor. So, for example, there are 4 seasons, right? So there's going to be Season 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is your top-tier mid-level season, that kind of a thing. This is not Ice Crown Citadel gear, to my knowledge, but it's right before it. Anyway, as we can see here, you can look through it. Some interesting facts are, yeah, I already knew this, but after looking at the math and so forth and so on, okay, so how do I put this? Notice this has like 2,800 spell power, this build over here, and this build over here has 3k spell power. If you really push the spell power, you can get up to like 32k spell power, but it's more realistic. You'll be sitting around the 3k range. Notice the healing of your FOLs doesn't really change all that much. Ooh, that looks bad. You're not... One second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... There we go. There's some OCD for you, boys. Alright, that's a little better. Yeah, so you can see here are, the brackets are average healing. So this is how much it heals if it doesn't crit. This is how much of it heals if it actually, starts critting and doing its damn job. And then this is, the brackets are crit. There we go. And then this number over here is average. So you can see that the average amount of healing does not actually increase all that much between a Deep Holy Paladin and what I'm going to be calling an Argent Shock Paladin. The vast majority of what is making your healing powerful in Wrath of the Lich King comes from talents, not so much from the spell power, believe it or not. So as long as you have the plus healing talents, you can actually start skimping on spell power for other things, and your healing will actually be pretty much just fine, believe it or not. There's other weird things that I noticed. For example, let's go to the talent tree real fast here. Nobody, when they go Deep Holy, they don't put 3 points in Light's Grace at all. And I find this to be absolutely insane and a little bit disingenuous. Disingenuous? Whatever. So if you actually look at the stats, what you'll find, actually, let's pause the video and pull up Warmane real fast here so we can actually get the actual stats going. Where has my, here we go. Alright, so basically what I'm trying to explain here is that FOL is the primary source of healing, not because it is the best HPS, like healing per second, but let's actually get the heal, yeah, let's get the dedicated healing paladin. Which one are you? It's this one. But because it's like stupidly mana efficient, basically. Alright, so let's check it out. So here we have FOLs. FOLs are kicking around about 300, you know, some or so odd mana, and they're healing for like this. That's a crit, doesn't count. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Well, you know, 4,000, blah, 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 blah. This guy might be a little low compared to the other guy that we were talking about. That's a different thing we're talking about in a moment. FOL, yeah, so 4,800 base was when I went crazy on the spell power. This guy's lower on spell power, but he has the appropriate amount of haste, and we'll get to that in a second. But you can see that this thing has like a 15 to 1 healing mana efficiency. So for every point of mana you're spending, you're able to heal like, you know, 15 HP. And if we go over here to Holy Light heals 3 FOLs worth effectively of healing. Another crit, really. Yeah, and they go together. So however much you're... So for example, it's best to talk about your Holy Paladin or your Paladins in general, their healing capability in terms of FOLs. How many FOLs can you get out in a certain amount of time? It just makes the world a million times easier. Only if you want to get the raw HP healing per second number do you actually concern yourself with how much an FOL heals. So for example, a Holy Shock, 600, heals basically for 1.5 FOLs, and you can see that right there, right? So that healed for 6,000. My FOLs, when they crit, are critting for 6,000. So a Holy Shock heals worth about 1.5 FOLs, and it's on a 5-second cooldown. And then FOLs, you know, that's stupidly mana efficient. Holy Shock's not super mana efficient, as you can see here. Holy Light, of course, is also not mana efficient by comparison at all. Let's try to figure out. So this is like 1,100, give or take. So yeah, you can see that it's healing about 10 to 1. So the FOLs are rocking like, you know, 15 plus to 1. And the HOLs are rocking, you know, somewhere. They're less efficient, is what I'm trying to say, right? So everybody basically does FOL. The other reason why people do FOL all the time is, suggested, I guess you could say, is Sacred Shield. Where the hell is Sacred Shield? There we go. So it says, each time the target takes damage, they gain a Sacred Shield absorbing blah amount of damage and increasing the Paladin's chance to critically hit with Flash of Light by 50% for up to 6 seconds. They cannot gain this effect more than once every 6 seconds. Lasts 30 seconds. If you have this thing skilled, which I should. Wow, I don't have this skilled? Oh, right, I'm testing things. Derp. That means I got lots of spare talents. Really? I should have it skilled. What the hell is going on? So this thing says, yeah, Divine Shield is active. It should be 1 minute. That's weird. That's a glitch. Huh. Whatever. Yeah, it should be 1 minute because you have talents. Yeah, so it'll last like upwards of like 1 minute. It procs every 6 seconds. This thing scales with spell power. Testing has shown that the shield gives you... the shield strength is going to be about equal to your spell power. It's a little bit equal to your spell power plus 500. So, for example, when I have 3,000 spell power and I test this damn thing, the thing is like 3,200, 3,500, somewhere around there. When I get more spell power, it gets up to 3,600. So the shield itself is going to absorb between 32 and 3,600, depending upon, you know, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if the shield is affected by armor. I don't know if it's affected by like resistances, like damage reductions, all that kind of stuff. I would actually have to test that. More accurately, I'd have to test that in actual classic WoW, right? But if it's not subject to damage reductions or anything like that, it means that the shield is really, really good against spellcasters, and it's kind of poor against melee damage dealers, because melee damage dealers in Wrath tend to do, like, you know, 2/3 more DPS or double the effective DPS of a spellcaster, because, you know, armor and damage reduction, all that stuff. It's just a balancing thing. But the theory is we're doing Flash of Lights because, oh my god, when this shield is on the target, I increase my Flash of Light critical strike chance by 50%. When you really need this, because it only has like 3,200 HP, when you really need this bonus critical strike chance for your FOLs, it's not going to be there. Like, it's just straight up not going to be there, because what happens is the shield goes up, the shield goes down, the shield up, down, up, down, up, down. It's like, boom, and gone. And the shield physically has to be up in order to increase the critical strike chance. So if the shield goes up and then it's immediately consumed, right? You take so much damage that it just disappears. FOLs will not have the increased 50% critical strike chance. But anyways, most people go with FOLs because for a number of reasons, and one of the main reasons is they are stupidly mana efficient. But are they HPS efficient? And the answer is no. So, Holy Light. Oh, dear God. So, when you put 3 points into Holy Light, and you get the minus 0.5 second reduction to it. So, I've done the math. I've done the math even with it being haste. That's actually probably something that we should talk about. So, let me judge on the target, and then we'll check my haste real fast here. So, haste rating, about 5%. You can see my FOLs. This is the important thing. I have my flash of light down to 1.25 seconds. Because I have my flash of light down to 1.25 seconds, haste, the judgment, of course, gives us 15% haste, and then I managed to get, like, you know, this much haste. And then voila. There's a haste number you want to hit with your Holy Paladins, because basically what it allows you to do, let's see if I can do this on the fly. Let's make sure the judgment's still good. All right, so we're going to Holy Shock, and then I'm going to FOL, 3 FOLs, and then Holy Shock again. And everything should line up just fine because haste affects GCD. So we're going to Holy Shock, and then we're going to FOL. So it should be like 3 FOLs, 1, 2, 3, and I'm spamming 4 and spamming Holy Shock. Boom. Okay. And the reason for that is because at 1.5 seconds, I can do 4 globals within 5 seconds. Because I can do 4 globals within 5 seconds, that means I can have a rotation of Holy Shock, followed by 4 FOLs, or 4 global spell casts, like Cleanse, or whatever the hell I want them to be. And I'm not wasting any time. Holy Shock is fresh off a cooldown. We'll do that again. So we shock, and then we get out 4. 1, 2, 3, and this should be 4. And spamming Holy Shock. Boom. Okay, good. That's exactly how we do it, right? So there is an ideal amount of haste you want to hit on your Holy Paladin, and it's somewhere in the vicinity of, like, you know, 4.267%, or whatever the hell that was. All right, what else do we need to talk about? So whether I have haste on my Paladin or not, what these 3 talent points are doing for me in Holy... Oh, this is the one I'm not using. Yeah, Light's Grace. Yeah, I was testing Light's Grace and not Light's Grace. Judge. What these 3 talent points are doing for me, regardless, is they're basically reducing the cast time of Holy Light by 25%. And Holy Light, when it does its thing, as you can see here, it should go down to about 1.266 seconds. Look how fast this shit is. I can also only do like 26 Holy Lights before I because it's that mana inefficient. But a single Holy Light heal is worth the same amount of healing as 3 FOLs. It's worth 3 FOLs worth of healing. So, like, under normal, like, circumstances where I'm not super stressed with healing anybody, you'd want to be super mana efficient, so you'd want to just be flash of lighting all over the place, Holy Shocking here and there, blah, 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 right? But if the enemy is, like, all in on a target, and they're really trying to kill him, Holy Shock, Flash of Lights are going to do substantially less healing than you going Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light. And this is even true if you don't have the 3 points in Light's Grace. So, for example, if I do Holy Shock, and the 4 Flash of Lights, and then Holy Shock, and then the 4 Flash of Lights over and over again, and I compare that healing output to the just doing Holy Light constantly, you end up healing something, I did the math, you end up doing something more like, I think it's I can't remember, it's like 66% more healing, or it's like 130% more healing, but it is absolutely ridiculous. I suppose I could do the math on the fly. Real fast here. What is my healing time? It was 1... Oh, yeah, we don't have the judgment. Derp. Derpy derp. Okay, so it's 1.66 seconds. All right, cool. Let's just do the math on the fly, so I'm not talking out my ass. Like, I've been sick. I can't remember what the hell it is. Okay, so if I do Holy Shock and then 4 Flash of Lights and a Holy Shock in a 10-second rotation, I will heal a grand total of 4 plus 3 FOLs. So I'll heal 7 FOLs worth of healing. Is that right? Nah, that's not right. You're doing 2 Holy Shocks and you're doing 8 FOLs. Yeah, so it would be 8 plus 3 because the Holy Shocks are worth 1.5. Yeah, so you're doing 11 FOLs worth of healing in 10 seconds. That's pretty good. If you're throwing around FOLs at 1.6 seconds, right, we go 10 divided by 1.66 equals times 3 because each FOL is worth 18. So whatever the hell 18 divided by 11 is, yeah, that's what I thought. It's it's well over a 60% increase in your healing capability. If you go HOL, HOL, HOL. And then I can do something else. So since that talent increases our effective our cast time of Holy Lights by 25%, it does this whether or not you have haste, you don't have haste, blah, 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 blah. I can actually cut this by 25%. So I can go times 0.75. And you'll see that, so you'll see that I'm only healing was about 23%. So how do I put this? If I don't have these 3 points in improved HOL, and my enemy is getting my ally is getting all in, and I need as much HPS as I can possibly muster to try to save the day, even if I don't have 3 points in that talent, I'm better off going Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light, even at like 25 seconds, right? Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light. Because I'll still be getting, I'll be spitting out 23% more effective healing. However, if you have the talents, it's not 23% more effective healing. It's, when you desperately need it, it's suddenly closer to like 65% increased healing. Now I suddenly remember where I got that 125% from. All right, so here's where it gets interesting. Because this is a 25% increase in your healing total, right? My bad, your healing speed. It actually compound synergizes with crap like wings. So wings here says increases all damage and healing caused by 20% for 20 seconds. So if your ally is getting all in, you have 2 options, right? You can bubble and go Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light. Or if you're in good enough position, a good enough range, like a good example of this would be against TCG, so Holy Paladin, like in 3s. Holy Paladin, Arms Warrior, and Unholy Death Knight. If they suck one of your teammates to them and start going all in on him, if you're standing farther than 25 yards away, which is basically a warrior's charge range. So if you've positioned yourself about, 40 yards away, which I think is healing range. Yeah, 40 yards. You're not under threat of being interrupted at all, so you could literally pop wings and go Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light at a 20% bonus. However, because we have increased casting speed, so let's say I was healing for like 100, right? And but I got improved FOLs, so my FOLs are actually kicking around at an increase of like 25%. Okay, cool. So rather than like the guy who didn't put talents in this, he's healing for X. The guy who did put the talents in here is healing for 25 more than X. If both targets wings, the guy who didn't put the talent points in is going to be healing for 120% of X, right? But the guy who does have the talent points in here gets to do this. We'll be healing for 50% of X. This is actually a really, really big deal for you to counter all-ins, basically. So basically what I'm trying to say is that if you're getting all-in, right, the correct thing to do, besides popping your defensives and this and that and all the other stuff, right, blah, 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 is not to Flash of Light. It's not to Holy Shock. It is to Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light, your happy little ass off. And if you have those 3 talent points in there, you'll be increasing the effective healings coming out of your holy light by 25%, compounded with other things. If you have like wings and stuff up, yada yada yada. Basically, and your FOLs aren't any weaker, right? It's like your FOLs didn't get any weaker for this. And when I look at the talent tree, I'm talking a lot about this for some reason. I'm talking a lot about this because this really confused me. Because I was watching like earplug videos, and a bunch of other people talking about PvP guides and so forth and so on. And they'll talk about how if there's an arms warrior on a target and an unholy death knight and they're bursting on a target, it is unhealable damage. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. And then they're like, if there's a paladin over there, and they're like, you know, flash of light, flash of light, flash of light, the guy is going to die. And my brain is like, yeah, you don't flash of light, flash of light, flash of light. You're supposed to be holy light, holy light, holy light. And on top of that, you should put these damn 3 talent points. So if you have these 3 talent points over here, those holy light, holy light, holy light is going to be kicking around at, you know, plus 25% effective healing. Holy crap, man. What time is it? Okay, it is 4 o'clock, and it looks like night outside, but it's not raining yet. That's terrifying. Wow. I live in the jungle of China, so when it rains, man, it like drops a swimming pool on your ass. This ought to be interesting. Okay. Moral of the story is, right, so then I have to ask a question. Let's say our options are put 3 points in Light's Grace or put 3 points in Blessed Life. What is better? And the answer is put the damn 3 points in the improved Holy Lights. Why? Well, how often in PvP, especially in like Arena and so forth and so on, where it actually matters, is Blessed Life going to save you, right? It'll save the match. You'll win because you had Blessed Life. Versus how often are you going to win because your Holy Lights, when you desperately need to maximize your healing output is literally 25% stronger. Let's think about this for a second, right? That includes the self. That includes like, oh shit, they're attacking me. Aura mastery. I need healing now. Now. What do? I'm on a holy light. I'm on a holy light whether I'm a flash of light build paladin or I'm a holy light build paladin. You're holy lighting either way, so I'd rather have the 25% increased holy light when I desperately need it. And now, if they're attacking you, Blessed Life might save your ass over the holy light, but if they're not attacking you, Blessed Life is effing worthless, and you'd definitely rather have the 3 points in Light's Grace. Okay, so, moral of the story is put 3 points in Light's Grace, you clowns. Typically, how your combat is going to look is you're going to flash of light, you know, when all over the place. You might holy shock offensively here and there, and then you're periodically going to holy light the target just to keep the cooldown up for when you desperately need it. If they go all in, you might pop some defenses, and then you can just holy light, holy light, holy light, holy light, holy light your happy little ass off. And yeah, so that was interesting. Also, I talked about how you need a very specific amount of haste. You want to get that Holy Light cast time with Judgment reduction down to 1.25 seconds. If I go back over here, hopefully it hasn't DC'd, but we can see that appropriate haste number is 4 and like 2/3%. To get that, let's see here. I put in like, let's see, 1 haste rating gem, 2 haste rating gems, the cloak has haste. 3 haste rating gems, 4. Yeah, just 4. So 4 haste rating gems, and then cloak enchant, and we were good to go. And that's to be able to, you know, holy shock, and then 4 GCDs, whatever the hell you want to do, including flash of lights, and then holy shock again on cooldown. That's your bread and butter when you're not stressed, when there's not people aren't all inning your teammates or you or that kind of stuff. But if they're all inning you, then out should definitely come the holy lights, holy lights, holy lights, holy lights, holy lights. Now, you can cast a near infinite amount of flash of lights before ooming as a holy paladin, just because they are so mana efficient. Oh god, here comes the rain. But you can only cast before completely ooming about 26 Holy Lights. Going Holy Light, however, does pair extremely well with, I might not actually have the talent, Divine Illumination. So if you're going to be Holy Lighting your happy little ass off for a while, you might as well just Divine Illumination and be like, get a mana reduction. So that 26 Holy Lights before you is also including the fact that we Divine Illumination and then Holy Light, right? Mind you, I can do the math. I'll have to do the math real fast. 1.66 times 26. Yeah. 43 seconds. So you have the ability to Holy Light nonstop for 43 seconds until you And this, of course, is without, you know, Divine Plea and a bunch of other things that you can do to reduce your mana cost and blah, 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 blah. Other things that I highly suggest are you can get glyphs. Boop. You can get glyphs like the glyph of Seal of Light, which increases your healing capability by 5%. But I would highly suggest Glyph of Wisdom instead. So your options are Seal of Light, which increases your healing by 5%, or Seal of Wisdom, which decreases the mana cost of your healing spells by 5%. And considering that Holy Light's major issue isn't its HPS, it's its mana cost. I would err on the side of Seal of Wisdom as opposed to Glyph of Seal of Wisdom as opposed to Glyph of Seal of Light, just because it probably synergizes much better. What the hell is this talking crap? Settings, global channels, go away. I keep turning them off, but it keeps turning them back on. Okay, so we've covered Holy Paladin a bit. What else? I'm trying to cover things that you can't find in like other PvP guides, right? Or things that I just find weird and wackadoo and all that kind of jazz. So we'll log out here temporarily, and we're going to go over here. We're going to talk about different builds. Before we get into the main event. The main event is the resists. The main event, boys, is the resists. Holy crap. It's not this chart. It's this chart right here. We got to talk about this. But right now, I'm just like, I want to get the bad stuff out the way before I talk about the holy shit. The holy shit is that resistances got massive buffs in Wrath of the Lich King. So this is basically 102 fire resist tested in current TBC, and this is it tested on the PTR. You can see that resistances get much more consistent in their damage reduction, and they increase the value of a point of resist by about 2/3. So you can see that on the PTR, I had a 40% damage reduction from fire resist, and it was really, really consistent. And then on not PTR, it was like 24% damage reduction, and it was kind of all over the place as to whether or not it's actually doing anything. Yeah. So a lot of stealth buffs to resists, and we definitely have to talk about this. But let's get the boring stuff out the way first. Okay, so this is the build that I am totally going to be running around in the open world with. And it's actually not this build right here, it's this build right here. Okay, I stripped 1 point out of Sacred Cleansing. Like, this is the change. Do you put 3 out of 3 in Argent Defender, or do you put 3 out of 3 in Sacred Cleansing? So I tried testing Sacred Cleansing on the PTR. Unless they fixed it, it does absolutely nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. Even when I had resistances, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe it'll increase the effectiveness of my resistances by 30%. It did nothing. Like Sacred Cleansing did absolutely nothing on the PTR. And on the private server Warmain, it's basically a 30% mischance. So if you cleanse something and Sacred Cleansing procs for the next 10 seconds, enemy spellcasters have a 30% mischance. And poison and crap, right? So, which is kind of massive and ridiculous. However, as we're going to see, at a 30% proc chance, it's not super reliable. I know it's going to sound weird, but just bear with me here. Well, we're talking open world PvP. Definitely want to put the point in Argent Defender instead. We'll come back to this. Argent Defender's 20% damage reduction starts making you unkillable very quickly. Like, mathematically, go F yourself times, like, 1,000. It's absolutely ridiculous, especially the spellcasters, but we'll get to that. I said I was going to take this slow. What do I want to say about Argent Defender? Oh, yeah, I tested this on Wrath. The amount of healing you gain from having defense gear is pretty good. So even if we don't have very much defense gear, there's a ring that's like an Onyxia ring. Because Onyxia's back, and she gives you like a special ring that keeps upgrading for like killing her or something. I don't know if I know. But the ring starts out, it ends up having like 30 to resist all, like 126 spell power. Let's just get on here. Screw it. Come on. Come. Get in here before I die horribly. Okie dokie. This ring right here. Yeah, binding ring. So you can only put one of them on. 115 stamina, 800 armor. Okay, I'll take it. 30 to all resistances, and increase my defense rating by 55. If this is the only piece of defense rating gear that you have on you, you can expect Argent Defender, after testing, to effectively heal you for about 5% of your life. So rather than dying, you'll heal for maybe 5, 6, 7% of your life. Maybe 6%. About 5%. About 5% of your life. But it scales pretty rapidly. I got to test it with like trinkets and stuff like that. Like, can I have a increased defense rating trinket? And then my Argent Defender procs, and I heal for like 25% of my life. So it's pretty good. On the private server, however, you need to have like copious amounts of defense before the effect triggers. So on private servers, I could have like 200 defense, and the thing won't heal me at all. It's actually kind of scuffed. But I play tested it anyways with the damage reduction. It's actually kind of insane. The other thing is I tested it. How it works is it like absorbs. So if you actually check your combat log with it, it's really fascinating. Any damage that causes you to fall below 35% is affected by the 20% damage reduction. So for example, if you took 1005 damage, but only the 5 damage caused you to fall below 35% life, you would take exactly 1004 damage, because only that 5 damage would be reduced by 20%. If, however, it was like you took 1,000 damage and 500 of it was below 35% life, you would take 500 plus 500 minus 20%, which would be 400. So you take 900 rather than the 104 that we talked about before. So very interesting, very consistent. Yeah, so why the fuck, I guess that's the big question, did we go down and pick up Holy Shield? Like, why am I not valuing? Because you can strip out points, right? You can strip out points from like here and here. Reckoning is interesting. We got to talk about Reckoning. And then you can put more points, like this is a big deal right here. This is a big boy. Strip a point out of here, put that in there, get like that. Increase the damage that your Seal of Judgment does 25%, and your Judgment spells increase casting and melee haste by 15%, blah, 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 blah. Why are we ignoring all that? And instead, we're over here doing this. Boop. Whoa, double click. Boop. Why? All right, well, for starters, I have to go back to this table right here. Not that table. That's the resist table. We're getting to the juicy stuff later. Basically, I've given up on... So, the first pit stop I made... I'm just going to lay back here, close my eyes, try to relax. Stomach still sucks. When I first started looking into Paladin on Wrath private server, the first place... And, looking at everything, the first place I looked is, can I make a Paladin that is stupidly hard to kill and is also lethal? Like, classic Paladin time, grind enemies into pulp. And what I discovered was that the answer is basically no. And the answer is no for a number of reasons. First off, every guide and its dog is telling you to go engineering. Engineering. Engineering is really good for classes like Deep Ret that want to jump on you and do lots and lots of damage and kill you in a very short space in time. Why that's really good is because you can jump on somebody, and if they swiftness potion or like speed away with anything, or they try to pop their rocket boots, which lasts like 5 seconds, you can pop your rocket boots and catch back up to them really quickly and continue to give them business, right? And that's really good for classes that have lots of DPS. It doesn't work for beans. Also, you have like an extra, like, you know, rocket attacks and grenade damage and all that jazz. So you end up having, you can add an extra 10% life damage to your burst. Basically, it's like if you're like, well, if the enemy is 70% life and I burst on them, they'll die. With the rocket attacks, because it does like 2,500 damage after you factor in like resilience and stuff like that, you can be like, it's closer to like 80%. So it's really good for high damage bursty classes that want to jump on their target and murk them. If you're trying to do a time on target build, however, where you're just going to grind the enemy into pulp, this ends up being a terrible idea. Because basically what I'm trying to say is engineering sucks, especially for time on target builds, because not because engineering itself sucks, but because mount speed in Wrath is now 1.5 seconds. So in Classic WoW and in TBC, mounting up takes a whopping, can I mount here? Ooh, I can. Yeah, see, it says 1.5 right there. Mounting up in Classic WoW and in TBC takes 3 seconds. So in order to mount up and F off, and things fly, right? So in order for people to mount up and F off in TBC and in Classic WoW, they have to disengage from the target for 10 seconds, and then they have to root themselves in place and cast for 3 seconds. Any damage will interrupt the effect, and only then can they F off. Well, in Wrath of the Lich King, it's 1.5 seconds. And I don't know about you, but every class and their dog, engineering or no engineering, has the ability to stun you for X amount of time, run away in a straight line, mount up, and fly off if they want to, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. In truth, not even Ret Paladins can do a damn thing about it. Their solution to this problem is to just murder you before, especially with engineering, because they can keep on top of you, murder you before they run out of speed boost cooldowns, and then you can CC them and F off and fly away. Right? So that works. Engineering works if you're the kind of class that wants to jump on the target and not kill them so quickly that they don't have time to escape before all the speed boosts wear off. But if you're like a time on target paladin, this is no good. So basically, don't go engineering. In my brain, I can't think of any reason to go engineering as a paladin. It's like, yeah, you got a bunch of like cool tricks that you can do, like parachute off cliffs and shit, but I have like bubble and bop. I mean, if I want to go off a cliff, I think I'm good. I think I'm better than a parachute, actually. Also, enemies have parachutes and shit, so it's like if they fight you on a cliff and they don't like how the fight's going, they can just F off. So the way I look, okay, so anyways, what I'm trying to say is I very quickly came to the conclusion that it's not likely that I'll be able to kill much of anything as a non-retribution paladin, regardless of my damage capability or not. If I could find the damage, it wouldn't matter because I can't catch a target too well. And you can see here that the Holy Paladins, whether you're the Argent Defender or you're the a Deep Ret Paladin, this is Deep Ret, Argent Defender, Holy Shock. So this build right here is the talent tree I keep showing over here is Argent Defender and Holy Shock, right? And then this build over here is like a Deep Holy Paladin. You can see that our total DPS is about half as much as a Deep Retribution Paladin. And believe it or not, our durability is hilariously high in Wrath of the Lich King. It gives me a lot of retail vibes in the sense that a single DPS attacking a single healer can't actually muster enough damage to kill the healer. Unless it's an arms warrior, in which case it still can't muster enough damage to kill the healer, but it's a hell of a lot harder to heal through that shit than it is anything else. Yeah, we have half the DPS of a Deep Ret Paladin, but we have Giga Chad levels of sustain. Because we have half the DPS, our burst is pretty meh. I don't expect to be killing a lot of things. So very quickly, unless I was a Deep Ret Paladin, I gave up. And possibly Preg Paladin. Preg Paladins do a lot of damage, but Preg Paladins are very specialized in the fact that they're kind of like a Blood DK. in the fact that if anything ranged is attacking them, like especially a spellcaster, they have issues. If something wants to go toe-to-toe melee with them, Preg Paladins are absolutely insane. They will beat your dick off. They will heal through all your stuff. They are the destroyers of people who want to engage them in melee. Anyways, I very quickly gave up on the idea of I'm going to be a really hard-to-kill Paladin, but I'm going to have enough damage to grind people down over time. And first off, we have enough damage to grind people down over time. We have enough durability to grind people down over time. What we don't have is the ability to stop them if they go, yeah, I'm just going to run away and fly. F you. Don't have that ability. It's just not there. So I gave up on looking into getting DPS, basically, and I just went, okay, rather than being a guy who can 1v1 anybody and win, kill them. Let's be the guy who can one-on-one anybody, and they can't kill you, and you'll force them to run away because they're going to die otherwise. Okay, cool. And then number two, what if I'm the guy who can't be killed by any two classes attacking you? Is that possible? What does that look like? And the answer is actually, unless it is specifically an arms warrior, yeah, we can get our paladins to the point where they're unkillable by any two other classes, and you will actually win that fight. I have a whole nother chart for it. I'm not going to pull it up, blah, 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 where I talk about all the different matchups and yada, yada, yada. I'm just trying to get through the basics here. Yeah, so I gave up on that. The reason why Holy Shield, we actually went all the way down here for Holy Shield. Holy Shield is big dick. Holy Shield is basically, if you sit down and you do the math, 8-second duration, 8 charges, blah, 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 blah. If you sit down and you do the math on Holy Shield, because things like this exist. I think I have it on my Paladin over here. Librams. Librams like this exist. Increase your block value by 450 for 20 seconds every time you use Holy Shield. Sweet, let's use Holy Shield. What the hell is my block amount? It's like 750 because of this, right? And I could easily switch to a different, more tanky shield if I was fighting a warrior, blah, 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 and have even more block rating, right? Okay, cool. If you do the math on Holy Shield, it's basically worth like a 30% damage reduction. It's somewhere between a 30% and a 35% damage reduction against most enemy melee classes, and it's worth that amount of damage reduction against most melee classes, even in the 2v1, with a few exceptions. So, for example, if a rogue is attacking you, if a they can say attack so quickly, if a Feral Druid is attacking you, they attack so quickly. If an Unholy Death Knight is coming for your butt and they have their ghoul, like you didn't fear their ghoul for some reason, then it's only a 30% damage reduction for one target. But well, yes, okay, that works. However, if you're getting tag teamed, right? Like, let's say you're getting tag teamed by 2 rogues. Let's say you're getting tag teamed by 2 Feral Druids, which is the worst nightmare, right? You're probably only going to be able to face one of them, and the other one's going to have free reign attacking your butt. Again, the situation is fine. You have a 30% damage reduction against one target. Nothing has changed. Against the vast majority of other melee attackers, so like an arms warrior, let's say an arms warrior and a death knight are attacking you, or 2 death knights are attacking you, right? The block value is so high, and your armor is so high, and your damage reductions are so high, that Holy Shield is basically worth 30% damage reduction. So I'll give you an example of what the hell I'm trying to talk about here, okay? So I did the math. And our choices with our Paladin builds are as follows. Let me actually pull up the appropriate stuff over here. So we're going to talk about this red piece and this blue piece, and then this piece down here. So our 2 options for gearing our Paladin as far as gems and stuff are concerned is we go really heavy on the resistances, or we go really heavy on the resiliences. And if we go heavy on resistances, meaning all of our gems, every last gem is a resist all prismatic gem, so it activates all of our bonuses, which is nice. That's option number 1. And then option number 2 is, rather than resist gems all over the place, we put in resilience gems all over the place. So you can see it down here. Depending upon what trinkets you're using, you'll have between your base gear with no trinkets comes with 13 gem slots. And then there's the jewel crafting trinkets that give you, I might actually have it, like, maybe I do. I can pull it up. But yeah, you can look up the jewel crafting trinkets that have like two sockets in them each. And they do extra things like make you run faster for 6 seconds when activated, increase your dodge chance, which is good against a lot of things except not arms warriors. And they have 2 sockets, so if you take 2 of them, you get up to 17. So the total number of sockets you can have will be somewhere between 13 and 17. If you put a bunch of like resist all gems in there, what happens? The answer is if we go full on resilience. So we put resilience, we take resilience wherever we can take it. We even take the PvP trinket because it gives us an extra like 150 resilience, even though we don't need it as a human. You can get up to about 31.5, 32% resilience. And if instead you put in all the resist gems, you go down to like 22.5 resilience. And I think I can showcase that right here. So you can see, I think I got no gems in this gear. Yeah, no gems whatsoever. So I'm sitting here with no gem gear whatsoever, and my resilience is still 22.433%. What happens? What happens? What happens? Okay, so let's say I have a 32% damage reduction from resilience. And I have my shield, my armor and my shield. Plate armor and a shield. And I have holy shield. What is my damage reduction? The answer is 83%. You have an 83% physical damage reduction if you went crazy on the resiliences, you have holy shield, and you have all of your armor. Okay? If you decided to hell with that extra resilience, let's go with the resist gear instead. It drops from 83% to 80%. Wow. That's actually a massive reduction, but it's like, it's not game changing, right? So it's like if I had 2 melee attackers on me with an 80% damage reduction, I'm not going to die. And if I have, like the 83% is not really going to make a difference. It gets even weirder, right? So it is possible in Wrath. To my knowledge, there's no armor pen cap in Wrath of the Lich King. So classes have the ability to eventually, when they get enough gear, to go up to like 100% armor pen. So they're completely ignoring 100% of your armor. Your armor does not exist for the purposes of damage reduction. Okay? If you do not have Holy Shield, under those circumstances. So let's say you were like, oh, I'm going to have 32% resilience, and then my armor is just not a factor, and I'm not using Holy Shield. The next thing you know, you've got a 32% damage reduction against warriors, and against Death Knights, and against whatever the hell else wants to stack armor pen. Not so good. Not the worst thing in the world, but not good. If you have Holy Shield, however, since it does count as like, well, let's just do let's see, we got 22%, I do 100, and then we multiply that by, I think it's 78.78, yeah, that's a 22% damage reduction, and I'm going to multiply it by 0.7, that's a 30% damage reduction. So you can see even if we don't have 32% resilience, we've only got 22% resilience. With Holy Shield, we're somewhere in the vicinity of a 45% damage reduction. You should also note that as the game matures, you'll switch your talent points around. Basically, as armor pen becomes more and more of an issue for you as a paladin, you can see here we got 5 out of 5 toughness because I'm all in on the armor. But as the game matures and armor pen becomes more and more of an issue, you'll switch over to improved Fury talents. Righteous Fury is interesting. It doesn't cost any mana in Wrath of the Lich King. It can be dispelled. So this thing can be dispelled, and then your Blessing of Sanctuary, which is another 3% damage reduction, can be dispelled. Oh, the other thing to note is you get Giga Chad amounts of mana back if you have Holy Shield and Blessing of Sanctuary, so that's actually kind of a big deal. It really helps you sustain in long combat fights. Another reason why we're getting Holy Shield. So you'll switch away from like the raw armor over to like, I want an extra like 9% damage reduction. And if you factor that in, I can go times 0.91. Boom. Oh, congratulations. We're now over a 50% damage reduction against enemy armor or physical damage dealing melee classes. They gave up a lot for that, believe it or not. Like, their DPS, when they go full armor pen, drops drastically. It's kind of weird. So when they go up against a cloth class, their DPS is meh compared to what it could be if they weren't full armor pen. But when they go up against a plate wearer, especially like a shield plate wearer, they're increasing their damage by like 3, 4, 5 times effectively, right? But we can easily swap our skills around and due to Holy Shield, we're already at a 50% damage reduction. This is without a 32% resilience. If it was 32% resilience, then this number rapidly becomes untenable. But we are going resistances instead, as I keep alluding to. Also to note, Argent Defender is still in play. So if your health drops below 35%, we can go times 0.8 and figure out what the hell our damage reduction is. Oh, great. We have damn near a 60% damage reduction. That's over 60%. That's a 60. Yep, slightly over 60%. 60% damage reduction against 1 to 2 enemy melee attackers, even if they're completely ignoring our armor. Are you following me on this? It's kind of ridiculous. And to showcase this build right here, if the enemy has no armor pen for some odd reason, it would actually be times 0.44 because you have like a 64% armor. Actually, it's times 0.46. So 100 times 0.46 equals, that's our armor. So this means 46%. We have a 64% damage reduction right now. Okay, then we're multiplying it by, we're not going to add Blessing Sanctuary, we're not going to add Improved Righteousness right now. We invested in armor instead, but we are going to do Holy Shield. Holy Shield is effectively reducing damage taken from enemy melee attackers by 30%, so we multiply that by 0.7. Sweet, we're getting, so was that 78% damage reduction? No, 68% damage reduction. And then what else we got going on? We got a Resilience times 0.78. That's our 22% resilience. Oh, great. We're at a 75% damage reduction now. And then we times that by another 0.8 for Argent Defender. And congratulations, we are somewhere in the vicinity of an 80% damage reduction. So the point is, the reason why we're going for Holy Shield is because also right next to Holy Shield is Argent Defender. And these two abilities do not give a flying fuck if the enemy has armor pen or not. Like they straight up don't care. And so if we run into a target that has lots and lots, if we run into a target that doesn't have any armor pen, they're going to tickle us. Like literally they can't do anything to us. And of course the less damage they do to us means the more damage that we can do to them. If you look at this chart over here, you'll see the vast majority of our damage is actually coming from Holy Shock. Holy Shock is responsible for 700 DPS of our 1600 potential DPS. So kind of a big deal if we don't have to heal ourselves with it. Against targets that do have armor pen, even if it's 100%, we're like, yeah, whatever. Chew on my 60% damage reduction. We're literally like, don't care, get fucked. So that's why that is going on. And then Argent Defender starts doing terrible, 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 terrible things when you have resistances. All right. Now this is the part I really wanted to talk about, resistances. Resistances, resistances, resistances. Hopefully we're recording this damn thing. Why is... Oh, interesting. Okay. Resistances. Almost an hour. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's talk resistance. Let's go to this chart over here. Boop. Okay. So what the hell is this chart telling us? I have 102 fire resist on my level 70 Paladin currently. And I decided to go find some level 70 elemental, fire elementals, and test out on the PTR what's going on with resistances, and then on the actual TBC what's going on with resistances. And what these lines are is each line is me doing a 10 resist test and then recording how much got resisted, blah, 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 right? So the first thing you'll notice is that on the PTR, so aka in Wrath, right, they switch from a 25% resist system to a 10% resist system. And on top of that, you'll notice that there are no 0% resists. So the resistances got extraordinarily consistent. That's a really big deal. Okay. They got super consistent, which is really nice. You can see I calculated it out to be about a 40% damage reduction. You can see the vast majority of the resistances that I got were somewhere between 30 and 40%. And I never got anything below a 20%. And we did have some full resists, right? Whereas if you look at the TBC results, not only is the total damage reduction way lower, but you can see that RNGesus is a cruel mistress sometimes in this. Like, this is potentially like, 4 back-to-back 0% resists. Like, look at this one right here, like 9 25% resists. I'll take that. I mean, at least it's consistent, right? Very few full resists. RNG is just all over the place. So the first thing to note is that there was about a 2/3% increase in spell value. So a resist point in Wrath of the Lich King is worth 2/3 more than a resist point in TBC. Okay, so that's the first observation. However, if you know anything about your damage reductions, you'll know that since resistances scale linearly, meaning every resist point you stack on top of more resist points, it's kind of like resilience, right? So as we stack more and more resilience, it becomes more and more valuable because of how damage reduction works. Well, the exact same thing happens with resistances over here. So the fact that our resistances are 2/3 more valuable doesn't really mean that we have 2/3 more damage reduction. In fact, it means we have closer to like 100 to 130% more effectiveness out of our resistances than the other way around. All right, so with this in mind, I decided, or long before this, I decided, okay, let's go crazy on the resists and see what happens. More accurately, what I did is I sat down and I calculated mathematically at what point does resistance damage reduction plus resilience damage reduction start to break the fucking game? And the answer is 30%. 30% damage reduction from resistances starts to break the effing game. And I'll show you why. Okay, so let's go back to our 100, right? So we're going to do times 0.78. So that's our resilience damage reduction. Then we're going to do our times 0.7. So that's a 30% spell damage reduction. Okay. So already, as you can see here, I got it written down, we're at a 46% damage reduction, right? But we still have other things to factor in, like Argent Defender, for example. Argent Defender is probably going to may or may not proc. And if Argent Defender procs, that's another 20% damage reduction. So, yeah, holy shit, we are at a, what is that, 56 and a third % damage reduction. So this is our damage reduction, 56.66666. Actually, 3333333. 56.3333% damage reduction to dispel attacks. You may or may not know this, but how do I put this? It's like when I'm playing a Holy Paladin on the private server, and I have 22% resilience, I'd say about 25% resilience. When I have 25% resilience and no resistances damage reduction whatsoever, no real Argent Defender whatsoever damage reduction, I am still unkillable 1v1 versus spellcasters. Right? It can be a tough fight at 25% resilience, but I am still straight up unkillable to any single spellcaster in the entire game, period. When I go up to like 32% resilience, and then no other damage reduction sources whatsoever, I start becoming... I'm still killable to any 2 spellcasters, but I'm like super unkillable to any single spellcaster, RNG be damned, at that point. And I'm like 30% more resilient. So I started trying to calculate, okay, at what point does a Holy Paladin become unkillable to spellcasters with resilience, damage reduction, and nothing else? And the answer seems to be somewhere around 23 to 25%, depending upon how you use your cooldowns and blah, 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 right? Unkillable, any single spellcaster in the game. What the fuck do you think happens if your 25% damage reduction becomes a 56% damage reduction? The answer is you start becoming unkillable to any 2 DPS spellcasters in the entire game. And if you start pairing this with all the armor reductions that we talked about, you are virtually unkillable to any 2 classes in the entire game. So you can get jumped on by any 2 motherfuckers, and you're just going to be like, okay, whatever, get bent, I'm not going to die. The only exception to this would be if one of those 2 was an arms warrior, you're probably going to die. It's just going to take a while, right? And then in some matchups, some classes actually kind of run out of mana. It's not as bad as TBC or Classic World of Warcraft, the running out of mana thing. I wish it was, but it's not. So, for example, Shadow Priests. When Shadow Priests start ooming, they can maintain about 2/3 of their DPS while in a completely out of mana state. Elemental Shamans can maintain about half of their damage output while they're in an state. Mages can only maintain about 1/3 of their damage output while they're in a out of mana state. Druids, boomkins are the same way. So if they take too long to kill you for whatever reason, they're going to start running out of mana, and then math is well and truly not going to be on their side. So don't be surprised if you run into situations where you're being attacked by 3 enemy spellcasters and you just can't be killed, assuming you're going resistances. All right, let's talk a little bit more deeper about resistances. So down here we have where you're getting the resistances. Put this, put that, and we'll do this. Yeah, so down here is where doth the resistances come from. And we have our 30 resist all ring. We have 5 out of 5 resist all slot in gems. We have 7 resist all to shoulders. We have 5 resist all to shield, and then there's the total number there. You're going to have between 107 and 207 resist all, depending upon how psychotically you wanted your trinkets to be resist all or not. Then you have 25 resist specifically to helm, and then leatherworking will give you a 70 specific resist to your wrists. This is kind of a big deal because wrists are going to be very far easier to swap in and out than your helm will be, right? Especially if you're using PvP gear, that kind of a thing. So if I need to customize my resistances, technically I could swap helm and I could swap wrist. But helm is probably going to be pretty locked because why would I want to have three different helms for 3 different resists? But bracers could be very malleable, so that's a big deal with the leatherworking thing. And then of course you have an aura potentially for fire, frost, and shadow. So we end up having 225 specific risks. And here's where it gets interesting. So there's a resist all potion that persists through death in the game that you herb mine. You gather the herbs from Borea Tundra, and these herbs are used for nothing else except this resist all potion that persists through death. So to say that these potions are going to be cheap and ubiquitous for you to use is an understatement. It's important to note that none of this crap stacks with auras. So for example, Mark of the Wild will not stack with an aura. Shaman resist totems will not stack with aura. Basically any outside source of resistance that is like a buff on you does not stack with aura. But it's important to note. So here we go. So let's say you're outside of the arena, right? So this is our outside of the arena resistance stats, and this is inside of the arena resistance stats. If you're outside of the arena, it's a really, really good assumption that you're going to have this plus 50 resist all potion, and subsequently, this is where all your resistances will be. This is assuming, okay, in both cases, so we have 2 options. Number 1 is we can stack shadow resist. Number 2 is we can do a split in our resistances where a stack shadow resist would be this 25 and this 70, aka this 90 specific shadow resist in our gearing setup can be all nature, or it can be all shadow. If it's an all nature, what we're basically doing is we're splitting our resistances between nature resist and shadow resist. If it's all shadow, then it's all shadow. And I've eventually come to the conclusion that's probably best if we go all in on the shadow resist for a number of reasons, which I'll talk about momentarily. If, however, you have good resists in nature and in shadow resist, like you did the split, right, you are Giga Chad levels of immune to all kinds of CCs in the game, like, fears, stuns, horrifies, terrors, all kinds of dispels. Name a like clone is a nature resist check. Hex is a nature resist check. Wind shear is a nature resist check. Mind DK interrupt, casting interrupt and school lock is a frost resistance check. Blah 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 blah. Other but we'll get to why you want to have shadow resist in a second. Okay. So the main reason why you want to have shadow resist is because of how the pen works in the game. So casters that are doing arcane damage, such as boomkins, or they're doing lots of nature damage, such as boomkins and elemental shamans, right? So a boomkin's damage is split 50-50 between like arcane and nature damage. It's probably a little bit heavier on the nature than the arcane, but their burst is in the arcane. And then shamans, their damage is split between nature damage and fire damage. The vast majority of their, like 2/3 of their damage is actually nature damage. There are not a lot of auras in the game that increase resistance to nature and arcane. The only one that really exists in the entire game is Mark of the Wild, and Mark of the Wild is only a 70 resist all. And subsequently, it's very common for enhancement shamans and boomkins to only take 75 armor pen. They don't go above 75 armor pen because the only other thing in the entire game that could possibly give them resistance is nature, and it would have to be specifically like they run into a shaman who for some reason is willing to sacrifice their air totem for a nature resist totem. And even then, because basically, shamans can throw down 4 resist totems, and they'll basically give 130 resistance. Doesn't stack with auras, counts as an aura, right? 130 nature, fire, frost, and nature, fire, frost resist. Yeah, so yeah, 3 totems, nature, fire, frost resist. And that's the only thing I have to worry about. So to run into a arcane / nature damage user, and they have 130% pen, is going to be extraordinarily rare. It'll be actually much more common for you to even run into elemental shamans who have almost no pen whatsoever. Like they put 35 pen on their cloak and then nothing else. And the reason for that is because since they're only really concerned about Mark of the Wild, they have this thing called Purge. So if they really want that spell resistance gone, they can just purge it off the target and then keep DPSing into them. But at high level arena, expect things like Boomkin, expect things like enhancement shaman, or not enhancement, elemental shamans to have 75 spell pen. All the other classes that deal with fire damage or frost damage or shadow damage, you can bet your life that they are running 130 spell pen virtually at all times. And the reason for this is because paladins are ubiquitous. Shamans are pretty ubiquitous, and they have the ability to resist the crap out of at least fire and frost, not the shadow. And on top of that, priests have a buff that increases target shadow resist by 130, right? Can be purged off, but, whatever. So, moral of the story is you can run into very few targets anybody will run into has a high arcane or nature resist. A lot of targets that people can run into will have high fire, frost, and shadow resist. And because the resistances are so powerful in Wrath of the Lich King, you can definitely expect people to be bringing pen gear to the party. It doesn't cost them too much to bring this amount of pen gear to the party. The problem they're going to run into is that we're still kicking around around about 127 resist all, not to say nothing of our specific resistances. So, for example, right here, when we're out in the open world, this is what our resistances look like. And the reason why Aura is only plus 80 is because it doesn't stack with the resist all potion, right? But in Arena, did I calculate that? I think I just added 130 to everything. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So, Yeah. Okay. So what I'm basically trying to say is, when you run against targets out in the open world with your resistance gear set up, what's going to happen is sometimes you're going to run into targets who are in PvP gear. If they're in PvP gear, it's a good chance they have pen. If they need pen, they have pen, right? But if you're running into targets who aren't in their PvP gear, and keep in mind, if you're farming out in the open world, you don't really want your PvP gear because the resilience damage reduction doesn't really affect mobs. So they're probably more likely running around in their PvE gear out in the open world. There's a really good chance they don't have spell pen. And if they don't have spell pen, that's good fucking luck. Like, you are like, if you run into targets that don't have spell pen, they're not going to do any damage to you. Just straight up, do not pass go, do not collect $200, get bent. I still need to check what the damage reduction is with these resistances at level 80. But as you can still see here, it's kind of ridiculous. When you go into the arena, I think the arena team comp that I really want to try with the whole resistance gear setup is, I want an arms warrior who's also going resistance gems. I want an enhancement shaman who's also going resistance gems. And then I want a paladin who's also going resistance gems. All right, so that all three classes are full on heavy into the resists. And the reason for this is because with the paladin and the shaman, you've got plus 130 to fire, frost, and nature resistance if you need it. And then the paladin, of course, is bringing the 130 to shadow resist. And you can see just how stupidly effing high our resistances are. And when I say our resistances, I mean this is the warrior's resistances, and this is the shaman's resistances, and this is the paladin's resistances. And basically what this means is, if you run into any team that is rolling a caster DPS, at least one caster DPS, you're probably just going to win on math alone. Because they didn't bring anywhere near enough pen. Even if our enemies bring like 130 spell pen, for whatever reason, you're still looking at like 100. Jesus, you're still looking at. Yeah, you're still looking at like 127 resist all. That's assuming it's. Yeah, your 127 resist all just kicks in. And 127% resist all is going to be close to somewhere around like a 20% damage reduction. I can already tell you that right now. So if they're trying to get through a 20% spell damage reduction, and they're trying to get through a 22% resilience damage reduction, and plus whatever the fuck else you guys have going on, just give up, quit the game. Like I said, the game starts breaking at a 30% damage reduction. We'll do 20% real fast here. Times 0.8 equals, so that's our resistance, and then we'll do times 0.78, that's our resilience. So you can already see we're taking almost 38% damage reduction from spells, just between resilience and a 20% spell damage reduction. The game is not designed, the game is not balanced around spell classes taking 38% reduced damage. I can guarantee you that right now. Yeah. And of course, if it's shadow damage, then it's Giga Chad levels of get bent. You can very easily go with a split resist, so you'll do like the nature resist, or even heavy nature resist if you want to. There's other important things to note. I think I have it written down over here somewhere. Yeah, right here. Where against binary spells like Cyclone, Hex, Fear, spells that they don't do damage, it's either a full resist or a full effect, your chance to fully resist the spell after testing on the PTR is literally equal to your percent damage reduction. So, for example, if I had 40% damage reduction for whatever reason against enemy spellcasts, if they try to hit me with a binary spell like a CC or a Cyclone or whatever the hell, there's a 40% chance I tell them to go F themselves. Like, it'll just bounce off of you. And why this is a really big deal, it should be dead right now, right? Log out? Really? Let's just log out here. Why this is a really big deal is because you're a paladin. So, paladins have multiple get-out-of-jail-free cards, right? So it's like, if you're trying to, and if you watch, like, earplugs, and I would highly suggest it, where's the video I really like with earplugs? Do we even have it up right now? Probably not. Yeah, I guess I can, yeah, let's do the synthwave thing. Let's go ear. So we'll shout out earplugs. I really liked his videos. The other guy that I really liked is like Mainz or something like that. Yeah, this one right here, the Classic Life PvP episode. This one was really good. Earplugs really knows his stuff. So it was cool. Definitely go check him out. The hell was I talking about? Yeah, so if you listen to, like, Arena Comp, goes and kills and all that stuff, how they really try to kill people is that they'll try to CC the healer with, like, a 4 to 5 CC chain. Well, they'll hit you with, like, a 5 CC chain, right? Like, you're not allowed to cast any hard cast heals for God knows how many seconds, and there's 4 CC checks there, right? Turn off the aircon, I'm getting cold. Well, as a paladin, you have lots of get out of jail free cards, right? You're like, oh, they're trying to CC me, and they're doing a go. They're trying to hit me with a CC chain. Bubble, heal, get bent. Oh, they're trying to heal me with a CC chain, aura mastery, other 30% damage transfers from them to me. Heal, get bent, right? So you have multiple get out of jail free cards against at least 2 major get out of jail free cards. Against people trying to run a chain on your ass, basically. What if you have 30% resistance? What ends up happening then is you don't have 2 get-out-of-jail-free cards. You end up having, like, 3 get-out-of-jail-free cards. Because you get to look at the RNG that's coming down. Like, they're trying to run a CC chain on you. Are my resistances telling them to go F themselves or not? If my resistances are telling them to go F themselves, then there's no need for me to use this or use that. Like, they might get Trinket out of me, or they might get, like, 1 defensive cooldown out of me, and, like, that's it. If you notice, like, one anti-CC chain was Bubble, and the other anti-CC chain involved, like, 2, maybe even 3, go F yourselves, right? Like, yeah, like a defensive cooldown here or there, and, like, aura mastery, and maybe a PvP trinket. Or your racial, whatever the hell, right? But if there's a 30% resist chance, I can see the RNG. I can see if I need to get serious, to actually use a get-out-of-jail-free card. And if I don't, I don't. And so, mathematically speaking, that's probably going to mean that rather than you being able to shrug off 2 CC chains, you can shrug off 3 CC chains. And, of course, if your opponents are skipping on the spell pen, for whatever reason, then, yeah, they're going to absolutely get boned. Because that 30% damage reduction very quickly turns into like a 50%, like 40, 50%, yeah, about 40% damage reduction. So I'll give you an example. So why are we stacking Shadow Resist as opposed to Nature Resist? By all means, go Nature Resist if you want to. It really helps versus Hex, Wind Shear, Cyclone, all that stuff, right? Gives you a really good chance to just say go F yourself when they try to hit you with that shit. Especially if you have a shaman backing you up with his plus 130 resistance. But why Shadow Resist? The answer is Affliction Warlocks. So Affliction Warlocks, which is the only warlock you're probably ever going to see in Arena, because they are bullshit. Number one, they like to run with boomkins because of the dots. So basically their battle plan, again, go watch earplugs, is they're going to dot the crap out of people. They're going to put Unstable Affliction on everything. And because Unstable Affliction is there, the Paladin cannot dispel, and they just rot you into oblivion. Okay, cool. That's assuming that the Boomkin can't find a place and a time to turret, annihilate somebody. What am I trying to say here? So if you go test cleansing a... what the hell is it? If you go test cleansing on... My bad. If you dispel an Unstable Affliction on the PTR, if you go test it, what you are going to find is that it uses classic WoW grenade DPS, grenade resist rules. Meaning, if I fully resist the damage that the... If I fully resist the damage, I resist the silence. But I can also not fully resist the damage, but resist the silence. So it's actually 2 resistance checks, is basically what I'm trying to say. So your odds of fully resisting the spell are not going to be all that high, but it's definitely there, which is really interesting. You might have close to like a 10% chance to fully resist the spell. But you end up having, like, again, whatever your damage reduction is, chance to resist the 5-second silence, which if you have the improved concentration aura, it of course is a 3.5-second silence. And normally it hits like a truck for damage when you dispel it. Like, it does 5,000 shadow damage to you when you dispel it. But if you're sitting at like what we talked about before, like, 60% damage reduction, it doesn't do shit. It tickles. It absolutely tickles you. So suddenly you're not afraid of dispelling unstable afflictions on account of the fact that it doesn't really do any damage to you, and there's a really high chance that you're going to resist the silence. And even when you're getting silenced, it's not that big of a deal because you're only silenced for 3.5 seconds. So it's kind of like I holy shock heal somebody, and like 1.25 seconds later, because that's my I'm hasted, right? I can dispel. I try to dispel. Maybe that one silences me. This is the worst case scenario, right? My first dispel, I get silenced. Well, 3.5 seconds later, I just holy shock again. It's like, whatever. So you're not stopping the holy shock healing. It doesn't really do any damage to you. There's a very high probability that you'll straight up resist the silence one way or another, and you can keep dispelling. And then, of course, with that build, you'll have actually 3 out of 3 Sacred Cleansing, because when you're going into Arena, you're going to be a deep Holy Paladin. You got 3 out of 3 Sacred Cleansing. And because you're not afraid to cleanse shit anymore, off yourself and off other people, if they dot you up as the Paladin and you start cleansing yourself because fuck you, and you get Sacred Cleansing going, and Sacred Cleanse, we're assuming Sacred Cleanse actually does stuff in Wrath of the Lich King. They patch it or some crap like that. You're going to find that you don't care. Basically, I think what's going to happen is, rather than the Warlock being able to keep dots on all 3 targets up at all times if you leave them alone, the Warlock's only going to be able to keep dots up on 2 targets. And the problem with that is that you can heal 2 targets simultaneously as a Deep Holy Paladin with, is it Paragon? I forget, whatever. A Beacon of Light, there we go. Yeah, so good to go. The other reason you're taking lots and lots of Shadow Resist is, the hell am I talking about here? Yeah, Warlocks have a bit of a problem. So they can Curse of Elements their target. When an Affliction Warlock Curse of Elements their target, the target takes 13% increased magic damage. But they lose a Curse, which means they're losing a damaging spell, a dot, in exchange for Curse of Elements. Or they're losing Curse of Tongues. That's a big issue. Putting Curse of Tongues on the Paladin's a big fucking deal. Or they can throw up like some kind of improved Curse of Exhaustion on people, right? Really slowing down people, letting other people kite, yada, yada, yada. So a Warlock's choices against targets that have Giga Chad levels of resistances are very shit. And basically, option number 1, let's talk about the Paladin for a second. Option number 1 versus the Paladin is I tongues him. Okay, cool. I'm greatly hampering his ability to hardcast heals. The problem is he can now cleanse his happy little ass off 6 ways from Sunday. By the way, Curse of Elements reduces target's resistances by 65. It's like a minus 65 resist all to the target. So if you're running around, like, again, every teammate in this team of Enhancement Shaman, Arms Warrior, and Paladin has between 330 and 352 Shadow Resistance. If for some insane reason the Warlock has simultaneously 130 Resistance, Spell Pen, and he puts Curse of Elements up on the target. I want a calculator. Yeah. What are we looking at? All right, so we're looking at 352 minus 130 equals minus 165. Okay. Yeah. Is that right? Plus 130 equals plus 165 equals. Yep. You still have like 52 Shadow Resist in play, which is not great and not an insignificant number either. So it's actually really good if they have simultaneously the pen and they can put the Curse of Elements up on the target. But if you're putting tongues on the Paladin and you brought Spell Pen to the party, what are your resistances? 352 minus 130. I still have 222 Shadow Resist. The level of fucks that I'm not giving when I cleanse is extremely high. The level of fucks that I give about how much damage your dots are doing to me is extremely high. Like, this is a absurd amount of magic resist to try to get through. Like, 222% is, well, that's like a 36% damage reduction. Okay? 36%, so that means I have over a 40% chance to resist silences. I can just cleanse the world, baby. And there's not a damn thing they can do about it. If I'm cleansing shit off myself, there's a really good chance that Sacred Cleansing procs on me, and if I get Sacred Cleansing on me, and then you're cleansing the world, basically. So it's like, okay, you stop my hardcast healings, but I'm going to nerf the shit out of your DPS because I can cleanse the world and holy shock, and cleanse the world and holy shock. We're cleansing the world. Cool. Let's say he puts Curse of Elements on you. You can no longer cleanse the world because you're at a whopping, like, 57 Shadow Resist. Cleanse the world, not an option anymore. But you're allowed to hardcast heals to your heart's content. Yeah. Which is kind of messed up. So the Paladin is just like, okay, cool. I can just hardcast heals all over the place. And my teammates still have Giga Chad levels of Shadow Resist. Which really means we need to start talking about teammates and the Shadow Resists. So things don't get any better with, like, the Arms Warriors and the Enhancement Shaman. Well, your options are, number one, you can, ideally, you would put Curse of Exhaustion on these bastards, and it would allow your Boomkin and yourself and your healer to kite the crap out of them, right? Damage mitigation, because Curse of Exhaustion is a cock in the ass, and this team cannot dispel curses. Awesome. The problem is that, congratulations, you put Curse of Exhaustion on them, which, by the way, is also like a Shadow Resist check, I think. And on top of that, you're trying to put dots on them to do damage against their 222 Shadow Resist if you brought 130 pen to the party. The levels of... It's like, okay, yeah, you got them slowed. But the levels of fucks that team comp is not going to give to the amount of damage you're spitting on them is virtually... It's extreme. So all they need to do is jump on the Boomkin, and pretty much the team's just not going to do any damage. It might be hard for them to stick on the Boomkin because they're getting slowed all over the place. But I would also point out that Paladin has freedom. Warriors have charge. Just because it's not like the Druid isn't slowed, right? And the Boomkin isn't slowed. So it's like, yeah, we're slowed, but also this piece of shit is slowed. Shamans have all kinds of other crazy shit. They have Tremor Totem. Yeah, which, every pulse, it starts removing, like, fear, charm, and sleep effects within a 30-yard radius. They have Wind Shear. They have, which is not on a GCD, so they can just, like, you're trying to cast healing spells or afflictions or whatever the fuck. Yeah, just get, whatever, just Wind Shear, Wind Shear, Wind Shear. They have Grounding Totem. Grounding Totem's a big deal because it's pulse, 10.5 second cooldown for the Enhancement Shaman, and its pulses, when it's put down, it pulses instantly, but then every 2 seconds, I think, afterwards, it pulses, and every pulse it does removes all movement impairing effects from everything within 30 yards. So it makes Blessing of Freedom look like shit, is what I'm trying to say. It's like, which is better, Blessing of Freedom or this totem? And the answer is both! Plus the resistance checks all over the place. Good fucking luck, you're not slowing down shit. So the option of Curse of Exhaustion, the team to try to stop them, it just isn't there for the Affliction Warlock in general, or for the Destro Lock in general. You're just not going to slow this team down at all. In fact, I don't think there's very few teams in the entire game that could actually effectively kite that particular team comp, because there's just too many get out of jail free cards, too much speed boosts, too much all kind of stuff going on. Like, you might be able to get away from them for a short period of time, and then they're just back on top of you again, and it's just bad. Alright, so what if they Curse of Elements them? Okay, cool. Now you're doing lots of damage. Your dots will definitely do damage. But now you're really not stopping them. Like, at all. Which means they just jumped on your healer. They jumped on your Boomkin. All the Paladin had to do was, like, pop some defensive cooldowns, because your team is taking, theoretically, lots of damage at this point, right? Because your entire team only has 57 Shadow Resist. Or less, depending on if they went crazy on the trinkets or not. And you're not stopping them. So they just jumped on your healer. Congratulations, Mortal Strike. Congratulations, Unrelenting Assault. You can't hard cast heals. Wind Shear is still going off all over the place. Grounding Totem's a bitch. The Paladin pops some defensive cooldowns to mitigate the damage that the team is taking, and they just absolutely murk the shit out of somebody. Or they jump on the Boom Kid, and they wind shear the other guy, like charge interrupt, wind shear, charge interrupt, grounding, all that crap, and then they just murk the crap out of the Boom Kid. Let me pause the video real fast. All right, we are back. Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say is, out of all the classes that I think can potentially give this team comp issues, it's Warlock because, you know, Curse of Elements is kind of OP. It'll put a huge nerf on what this team is trying to do. But I'm pretty sure that Warlock plus any comp, especially at the high rating, is just going to die screaming. Like, it's just too much of a loss for the Warlock to not be able to put Curse of Exhaustion on the melee and to put Curse of Tongues on the healer. Right? Like, that is the ideal situation. I tongues the Paladin. Oh, these fucking melee pieces of shit. I'm going to slow their bitch asses into oblivion. And hopefully it's enough so that we can win the day. And if you go serious on the Shadow Resist, the next thing you know, those options aren't really available to them. Whereas if you do a split resist, right? Or you go heavy on the nature resist as opposed to Shadow Resist, for example, right? What ends up happening is Warlocks become a significantly more of a threat. Druids and Shamans, both in their CC and all that stuff, become significantly less of a threat. But if you run into a comp where it's like, okay, it has a Warlock and it has a Shaman and a Druid and stuff in it, then you're kind of a little boned. Because next thing you know, the Warlock has not boned as in you lose. It's what I'm trying to say is it's more of a fair fight, and last time I checked, I don't like fair fights. So we're going Shadow Resist, but you can definitely put on more Nature Resist in that build if you want to. Yeah. What else do I want to say on the subject? There was one last thing I wanted to talk about that was kind of important, but I can't remember. Cleansing, stupid ass sacred cleansing. No. Any concerns? I swear to God, I'm gonna remember this. Like, I'm gonna end the video, and then I'm gonna remember what the hell I wanted to say. It's gonna piss me off. Death Knights. The other reason why you're taking lots of Shadow Resist is Death Knights. So currently on the PTR, even though it says that Blood Plague and Frost Fever do shadow damage and they do frost damage, it's completely immune to resistances. And I'm talking like, on the PTR, I'm talking like you can fully resist a Chains of Ice, and it still applies Frost Fever. Like, that level of the plagues don't give a fuck about resistances. So you're not taking damage reduction from them from resistances. They're getting applied irregardless of resistances. It's just like this massive cock in the ass. However, blood decay or just decay rotation in general basically requires them to refresh their curses. They have to use one of their blood runes to refresh their curses on the target that they're attacking, and then it spreads it to everything else within, I think it's 15 yards. I could be wrong about that. They glyph it, so it's like an extra plus 5 yards or some shit like that. And that's how they keep their dots up. And if they don't have dots on the target, then it's a really big issue for them. They do significantly less damage, and so they really have to keep it up. All right, so the spell they need to use in order to spread the dots and to refresh the dots is Pestilence. Pestilence is subject to Shadow Resist, which means if you fully... And it's binary. Which means if you fully resist the bitch, they can pretty much kiss their dots goodbye, or they suddenly have to use another blood rune to try to keep their dots up if they're paying attention. Which a lot of them aren't usually paying attention, but whatever. It's a really, really big deal if the blood decay's dots are falling off of you. If it's an unholy Death Knight, their death coils put a ability on you that locks the diseases in place, meaning that you cannot dispel them for like 10 seconds. That death coil is also subject to resistances. I have not tested to see if it does the double resist check thing, like the unstable affliction being dispelled does. But I know that if you resist the death coil, then it doesn't get locked. And it's pretty common even with pretty low resistances. So it probably is a double check. Okay. The point is, you can give Death Knights, and especially unholy Death Knights, real serious issues trying to keep their dots up on you. The reason why this is such a big fucking issue is because if they are unable to lock the dots on their target, and then you cleanse the target, and Sacred Cleansing, we're assuming Sacred Cleansing actually does shit in Wrath, and Sacred Cleansing procs, they went from being boned to, like, gigaboned. It's like, good luck reapplying. It's like, yeah, you can reapply the dots because they're not subject to resistances, but you're not refreshing them. Get bent. Kind of a big deal. The Gargoyle, which is the big bad summon that the Unholy Death Knights do that has everybody terrified and does lots and lots of damage. Yeah, that's nature resist check. And I'm not entirely convinced that it has Spell Pen from the Death Knight. So, kind of like the Ghoul doesn't share certain things with the Death Knight. Like, the Ghoul doesn't share DR with the Death Knight. The Gargoyle doesn't have the DR of the Death Knight. The Gargoyle, I don't think, also has the pen of a Death Knight. And Death Knights also aren't really known for taking large quantities of pen gear, because why the fuck would they? Their shit doesn't get resisted. So you're going to watch, even if you didn't fear the Gargoyle, it, like, tickles you. It's actually kind of funny. I've also been, like, turreted on by a Boomkin and starfalled on by a Boomkin, and I didn't give a shit. Our resistances were like, whatever, go fuck yourself. I was like, oh, you're using bursts, I'll use defensives and just heal myself. And, oh, yeah, that was cute. Cute. Adorable. Yeah, so the resistances can start doing really bad things to a Death Knight. If all else fails, you go into Frost Resist Aura, and Frost Resist Aura at that point would kick up to, let me see here, it's plus 80 if I go Aura, right? So this is not Arena, this is like World PvP stuff. Frost Aura would go up to like 257. There's a really good chance that you end up resisting their kicks. So rather than you only being able to get out a Holy Light every 10 seconds, like 2 Holy Shocks and a Holy Light out every 10 seconds because they're kicking you, expect to get out like 2 to 3 times more Holy Lights than that, and they just can't handle it. There's just all kinds of bad things are happening once you get resistances on the DK, basically. Also, they may or may not put 5 points in. Basically, anything outside their dots, if it says that it's doing magic damage, is subject to resistances. For some effing reason, their dots are not subject to resistances. And we can use this to basically tell even more than one Death Knight to go F themselves. And as we already saw, if you're running around with picture this, all right? You're open world PvP. Okay, cool. So we're running around with like an 80% physical damage reduction. Even if we have like 2, that might get reduced to like a 75% damage reduction, or maybe let's say 70 for the sake of argument. 70% physical damage reduction if we have like 2 ghouls on us for some strange reason, right? So our blocking isn't all that great, is what I'm saying. Still got like a 75%, 70, we'll say 70. 70% physical damage reduction. 2 Death Knights on us. And we also have got, they probably didn't bring too much pen to the party. We've got over a 60% magic damage reduction against these yahoos. Especially if we go below Argent Defender. Are they going to be able to kill us? And the answer is no. I've actually seen this in action on War Main when I stack Resilience into Oblivion. I end up having like 32% Resilience. 2 Death Knights on top of me can actually barely grind me down over the course of like 4 minutes. It's actually ridiculous. So they barely win that fight over like 4 minutes. 2 of them. So if I have stats like that, like I have, admittedly, I have better physical damage reduction with those stats, but I have worse magic damage reduction. And yeah, you're just not going to die. I don't know what to tell you. You're just not going to die. They can summon their stupid gargoyles on you. They can do whatever the hell they want. You just don't care. The levels of shit given, the levels of shits given is just not there. Yeah. So, oh yeah, the one last thing I want to talk about is you can do all this resistance crap from the word go. As soon as Wrath starts, like Season 1. And because the resist all gems are the only thing really holding you back here. And the resist all gems aren't even epic. They're like blue. They're the best gems you can get for resistances, but they're blue. And what this means is that 31% resilience that I'm sacrificing, you can see it up here in the red at the top right, where I say you lose about 2k HP and 9% resilience compared to other enchants. But then I start going into like, all the damage reduction you're gaining, and the HP loss doesn't matter anymore, and everything just doesn't matter. It's actually a superior Paladin build. That's in Season 7 gear. So if you were in Season 8, like end of expansion gear, then the resilience wouldn't be 32%. It would probably be closer to like, 36% resilience or some crap like that. But it's important to realize that at the start of the expansion, people don't have access to the epic gems, right? Like the epic resilience gems and all that kind of stuff. But you still have complete and total access to all the resist gear. So basically what I'm showcasing is even when you do have access to all the epic gems, the resilience gear is still the resist gear is still superior. Which means that in the early seasons, like Season 1 and 2, which I do believe would be like 5 and 6, you are far better off going with the resistance gems than with just about any other gem that you could possibly put on your Paladin. What else to talk about here? You might struggle to get your haste number up properly due to the fact that... Shouldn't there be like a... Wait a minute. Am I resisting a cloak enchant? I swear to God, there's like a resist all cloak enchant. Am I crazy? Whatever, I'll look into that. I think there's a specific resist cloak enchant, but not a resist all cloak enchant. I think that's why I'm going a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over here. Yeah, so you have access to all the resistance gems from the word go. So at that point, your options are, like 15% resilience or versus like 12% resilience, or fucking go F yourself amounts of spell power. So, yeah, very good. Very impressive. I'm definitely going to try this out. Definitely going to be my go-to build. And that is what I'm going to do. If you want hybrid theory on the subject, like what other classes would really benefit Paladin specs and so forth and so on from this type of thing, Enhancement Shaman, of course, really good. Just as a solo class with a bunch of resistances going, the only thing you're really lacking is Shadow Resist. Doesn't really matter. You're just going to grind people into pulp. Deep Ret Paladins may or may not like the resistances. I don't know. You could probably go test it. I'm pretty sure Preg Paladin will become something of a little god / bitch to deal with for enemies with the resistance gear. And here's why. So how Preg Paladins operate is as long as they're able to physically attack something, they're unkillable. Also, they have... basically, Preg Paladins, as long as they're attacking something, have about 70% of the healing capability of a pure Holy Paladin heal bot, and they spit out about 70% or more, about 70% of the DPS of like a full-on damage-dealing Ret Paladin. And it's that combination of I have 70% of the healing and 70% of the damage that causes Preg Paladin to absolutely murder anything that wants to stand toe-to-toe with it in a melee or give it something to beat on, like stupid X, Y, and Z with their hunters and yada, 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 pets and crap, right? Where Preg Paladin really struggles is closing the distance between point A to point B with a spellcaster in order to hit and therefore be able to heal themselves. That's a big fucking issue for Preg Paladin. In fact, it's such an issue with Preg Paladin that most Preg Paladins will tell you that if you're fighting enemy spellcaster, just die. There's not really much that you can do about it. But if you have Giga Chad levels of resistances with a rather terrifying amount of customization before you go into battle, there's a really good chance that you're going to be able to close the distance between point A to point B to that target and simply start healing and beating and healing and beating and healing. And oh my god, it doesn't fucking die. So Preg Paladin might really, really, really benefit from, rather than going a bunch of strength gear, actually going a bunch of resist gear. Very interesting to check out. They wear a completely different skill gear than the Holy Paladins, though, so that's a little disconcerting. But I might look into it. Definitely might be interesting to check out. Okay, so the last thing to talk about is Reckoning. Reckoning. And we might as well talk about it in like the context of Preg Paladin, right? Reckoning. Why the fuck are we taking 5 out of 5 Reckoning in our goddamn Holy Shock Paladin? Alright, well here's the answer. If you go playtest and you use Seal of Light and you use Judgment of Light on a target and you start wailing on the target. So let's say you're Holy Shock healing yourself on cooldown every 5 seconds and you're beating the crap out of your target with every ability that can beat the crap out of the target. So you're judging on cooldown, which can proc the seals. You are shield slamming on cooldown, which can proc the shields, and of course you're just melee, which can proc the seals, right? For some reason, the amount of healing, it like quadruples or some shit like that when you're using the amount of mana regeneration when you're using Seal of Light and Judgment of Light is astronomical. At a base level, it's about 1.5 FOLs every 10 seconds, I do believe. So to put this in perspective, if you're beating on someone with Judgment of Light and with Sealing of Light going, this is one of the things that the Preg Paladins do, right? And you're Holy Shock healing yourself. This is also something Preg Paladins don't have, but whatever. Every 10 seconds, you're getting 4.5 FOLs worth of healing into yourself that the enemy just can't stop. Right? Because you get 2 Holy Shocks. Each one of those is worth 1.5 FOL healing, and then the swinging of your weapon is healing you for another 1.5 FOL over the course of that 10 seconds. That's not insignificant. That's a 50% increase to your HPS while under combat conditions where you cannot hardcast heals. Okay, big deal, right? Reckoning increases this number from 1.5 every 10 seconds to about 2.25 every 10 seconds. So it's like, what is that, like a 2/3 increase or some crap like that? It's an even bigger deal. So you're not really taking Reckoning for the increasing damage. You're taking Reckoning for the increased, crap, there's like 2 people on me. I can't really hard cast any heals anymore. All right, well, I guess I'm just healing from Holy Shock and Seal of Light procs. And if you do that, you're going to kick around at about 5.25 FOLs worth of healing every 5 seconds, which is pretty good, considering all your damage reductions and yada, yada, yada. So that's why Reckoning there. Reckoning, not something to be slept on. If you can get it, definitely pick it up. There are other things to get besides it, however, so I wouldn't, it's not the end of the world. What the fuck else was I going to talk about? There was like one more thing. I had it, and then I lost it. Really tired over here. Like I said, sick. Das Reckoning? In combat healing? Pause the video and think about it for a second. Okay. So I got some things to talk about, but I can't remember what I wanted to talk about. It's kind of weird. So, You might think that the resistances or gearing is one of its major weaknesses are, okay, what if the enemy is like critting the crap out of me? And the answer is when enemies are critting you, okay, so your resilience is actually doing double duty. And you can do the math on being crit and being not crit with a spell. It's actually kind of funny. So for example, let's say a spell comes in and it does like 5,000 damage, okay? But we're sitting at like, a 50% damage reduction after everything is said and done. Well, that normal spell will come in, and if it's a non-critical, we're taking 2,500 damage. If it is a critical, and it's like the 50% bonus critical, you're actually reducing it, so it does 7,500 damage. I've got the calculator right here. What the hell am I doing? All right, clear. Yeah, so now we're at 7,500 damage. This is without like a 100% damage bonus, which some classes have. Okay, so this is the crit, right? It gets cut in half because of our resistances, but it also gets cut down by resilience, because resilience won't... You're taking reduced damage, period, and then you're also taking extra reduced damage from crit hits, another 22%. So you got to times that by 0.78. That's our 22%, yeah. So the difference between getting bitch slap critically with a spell and not getting bitch slap with a spell is almost unnoticeable, which is really interesting. It only gets noticeable when you start. It's like a 20% increase in damage, I think. It only starts getting noticeable if the enemy is hitting you for like ×2 damage. So frost mages, like elemental shamans, blah 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 blah, right? Like ×2 damage reduction. So at that point, it's like 10,000 damage comes in, and it's times 0.5 equals times 0.78 equals. So yeah, then that went from like you taking 2,500 damage to you taking 4,000 damage. Definitely starting to talk too much. What the hell else was I talking about? Oh, so this also applies to enemy melee crits, and this is where it gets interesting. So you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think successfully blocked attacks in any iteration of Legacy WoW whatsoever crit. So you never see in your combat log, Paladin was hit for umpteen amount of damage, X amount of damage, blocked, critical. You never see that in your combat log, which is another reason why Holy Shield is kind of Chad. Because like an Arms Warrior is going to get on top of you, and an Arms Warriors, they can overpower you every 6 seconds, and their overpower has a plus 50% chance to critically hit you. They're probably running around with like, 25% chance to critically hit something, and on more like 30% chance to critically hit, and on top of that, when they overpower you, that's an 80% chance to crit hit you. But if you block, then, get bent. Which brings us to another interesting thing. So, as the expansion gets later and later, meaning armor pen becomes more and more of an issue, this is how your talents are going to change. You're actually going to start devaluing Sacred Cleansing. And instead, there should be like one more point I can draw out. So, yeah, there we go. There's one more point I can draw out. Okay, 3. Yeah, that makes sense. You're going to start devaluing Sacred Cleansing. Let me just do it definitively. So this is like a late game open world Paladin PvP spec. Okay. Take these two. Actually, any more? Oh, this one. Okay. Take you. Take all of you. So you start ignoring the toughness, because toughness isn't going to do anything. What the? I'm leaning way back in my chair. I can't see shit right now. I'm just like, click the buttons. So no more toughness. We get the 6% damage reduction, because against... we're not taking it early on because it's very easily dispellable. But later in the game, we actually desperately need it against warriors and death knights and all kinds of other things that want to go full armor pen. You put your points, again, wherever the hell you want. I wouldn't go in avoidance. That's pretty bad. Strength is bad. I have no idea where to put this point, man. Just in case? Yeah, sure, why not? Increase our healing, increase this, sure, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we'll stay with Reckoning because it helps us heal. I like stamina. Sure, why not? Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Boop. We pulled, so rather than 2 points going over here into Sacred Cleansing, we put 2 points into Readout. And a combination of Holy Shield and even 2 points in Readout. I think you can't really pull another point out. I wish I could, but I can't. Even with 2 points in Readout and Holy Shield is going to absolutely murder most melee classes' DPS. Because, again, you're cucking their critical strike chance. You're greatly reducing the amount of damage they do to you. If you're dealing with a very fast attacking guy who can easily cut through your stuff, like Holy Shield's up and then it's gone, that's up and then it's gone. Readout will proc way more and just be around and be like, ha 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 ha. If you're against like an Arms Warrior, for example, they really need those crits, and you're just block, not going to give it to them, block. It's going to be a bad time. Going to be a bad time. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to talk about. This video is probably long as hell. I'm still sick, so I'm going to end it. But yeah, like I said, resistances are absolutely insane. In Wrath of the Lich King. You might think, okay, what if enemies like go crazy on the pen to try to counter your resistances? Well, the resistances you have are actually so high that in order to do that, they cost them like 5, I think it's 5, 4, 5. It costs them 5 gem slots in pen gems. Just to neutralize your aura. Like, they have the cloak enchant of 35 pen, they get 5 20 out of 20 penetration gems just to cancel your aura. They require 5 of their gem slots. To cancel your additional 127% resist all, which actually might be higher because I swear there is a oh, I feel sick. Let's see. Resist. Resist. Cloak. How do you spell cloak? Chant formula cloak greater resistance. You permanently enchant a cloak. 20 resist. Yeah, I get it. Fire resist. Shadow resist. I think it's all specific. Right? So we're actually missing that. Permanently enchant cloak arcane. Is there any resist all? No, I don't think so. Okay. So we're actually missing a little bit of resist over here. Because there should be a cloak in the specific, I guess, category. Yeah, so moral of the story is they're still going to have to, in order to come your aura, they need, let me cough real fast here. They need 5 gem slots dedicated. To overcome your resist all, they're going to need another 5 or 6 gem slots dedicated. At that point, they've gemmed almost entirely pen gear. And they still haven't really overcome your specific resistances, assuming specific resistances are subject to the person trying their damnedest to go pen to try to counter you. Nobody is going to counter you. They're just not going to do it. And outside of the best PvPers, you're not going to see very many people running around with more than 75 spell pen. So, for example, all the PvP guides are going to tell people to get 130 spell pen, but you're never going to see them running around with anything except 75 spell pen. Why? Because they're like, yeah, Mark of the Wild, and if I run into like a Paladin or something that has 130 magic pen, I'll just suffer the fact that they have a whopping, 55 magic resist on me. What do you fucking do? Except you're going to roll up on them and you're going to be like, no, I don't have 55. I've got whatever the hell this number is up here, minus 75. So like, yeah, 180, which is just like absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, so also I guess we don't have 57 Shadow Resist against that Warlock. We have 77 Shadow Resist against that Warlock. That's kind of cool. I'll have to add that in there. Anyways, I'm a video here. Real sick. And Deus Vult, boys. I think I'm going this one. Never can tell with the damn Chinese. There we go. Deus Vult.